In this episode, you'll witness how we methodically take down AFK players, while pretending they're terrifying strategic masterminds with top-tiered ranks and big-brain plays, just so you think they're an actual threat. Of course, that's not true. Or is it? Anyway, let's see how it all went down. Over the past few days, I researched attack helicopters and started upgrading my gunships to level 3. On top of that, I finally began researching radar. I know, it's criminally late, but better late than never. I already felt its absence and reconfirmed that I simply can't survive without radar on any map. Mobilization went way better than expected. Right now, I've got massive reserve of electronics bought straight off the market. I'll show you screenshots of my trading results a bit later. For a while now, I've been marching through Russia. You can see me cruising along with a combo of helicopters and elite frigates, clearing out local garrisons like it's a sightseeing tour. That's exactly why I believe this combo is the best choice for rising tides. I just sail and kill. No need for airfields. My range covers most cities anyway. So yes, it's official. I declare that elite frigates plus helicopters is the ultimate loadout for this map. 4 hours later, Ethiopia attacked me. Are you expecting some epic full-scale invasion now? Nope. Most likely he just mistook my signature for a rebel. We had no border, no tension, no beef between coalitions. Because he doesn't have a coalition. So, being a responsible adult, I just ignored the whole thing. Meanwhile, I'd already sent troops to capture the freshly cleared Russian cities. Meliodas also dispatched his own troops to take the farthest reaches. I had no objections. If we share a border with enemies, I hope they go for him first. As you can see, being a good ally is just another one of my many strengths. Now let me show you another strike in action. My frigates were positioned fairly far out, but still within range of every enemy city, conveniently placed along the coast by our generous devs. While taking Russia on the regular World War III map takes 2 weeks, on this one, it's a 2-day job. I love the pace and how my Marines speed up the whole process. A few hours later, I accidentally rammed into a Romanian destroyer because I forgot to toggle aggressive mode, which once again proves that I'm helpless without pay-to-win features. But I'm optimistic. This is probably all that's left of Romanian might, and I just have to finish the job without dying. Naturally, I wasn't about to watch my corvettes get sent to the bottom. I hit the retreat button, but I started with just 2 of them. Can you guess why? Some of you, I believe so, know this mechanics. When retreating, you lose some HP. If I had retreated all 3 corvettes at once, their health would have dropped below 40 health points each, effectively turning them into 2, which means the 3rd would be deleted, and I wasn't having that. So I patched up my boats with fresh paint and got ready to serve up some vengeance. Luckily, the destroyer was near a waterway I could use for maneuvering. Now you get to witness my exceptional naval skills as I sink that Romanian surface ship. Yep, you got that right, my naval tactics shine brightest when the enemy's AFK. I'd even say I'm invincible. 2 hours later, my minion bumped into a Russian infantryman and tried to vaporize him with a death stare. Didn't work, so I had to send in a helicopter wing for backup. These 2 strike blinks belong to Meliodas. As you can see, he's bounced back pretty nicely after those brutal fights with the Serbian coalition. We're using the classic air warfare strategy. Mixed stacks of different aircraft types paired with the field hospital in Minsk. This way we avoid losses and our forces just keep growing. That's also why I play it safe with my infantry. I don't want to lose any and have to mobilize more every 5 minutes. We had no trouble wiping out Russian forces, and by the end of day 18, I had parked my elite frigates right outside Turkey's former capital. So I sent in my helicopters for a short-range sightseeing tour. This setup allowed me to strike fast. Travel time from the airfield to the target took just minutes. During the first air raid, I destroyed 1 strike fighter, and the battle report claimed I had hit an entire strike wing. That was incredibly lucky, because fixed-wing aircraft are a major threat to my helicopters. On the bright side, those strike fighters had been sitting inside my frigate's attack range from the start, which means the outcome was sealed the moment I dropped anchor. As reinforcements, I brought in my 2nd helicopter ring mixed with fighters, since my frigate still didn't have enough capacity to carry my full air force. Istanbul turned out to be completely empty, so I decided to try my luck in Izmir. Meanwhile, I sent my minion to capture Ankara. While casually cruising by, a transport convoy spotted Turkish troops in Greece. That intel was relayed to Commander Meliodas, who would decide what to do with them. Here you can see me using a fighter jet to pinpoint Turkish troop positions. The Diyarbakir complex was guarded by a division with AA and armor units. That could be a real problem. Adana had an infantry signature, which is basically a snack for my Hellas. And since I enjoy bullying weak targets, it obviously became my next objective. Research-wise, I wasn't slacking either. 1 hour later, I already queued radar level 3 and began researching the naval version of the air superiority fighter. Finally, I would be able to detect all land signatures, a massive boost to my tempo. Sure, I could capture blindly, but I really didn't feel like bleeding units unnecessarily. As for mobilization, you can see for yourself. I put a lot of love and resources into my damage dealers and the strongest unit on this map, the elite submarine. Once I get it to level 2, I'll be unstoppable both on land and at sea. So, I kept taking candy from the Turkish baby, and this time took out an infantryman in Samsun. My next target was the Diyarbakir complex. Luckily, there was a conveniently placed river nearby, clearly designed for my frigates. But to my utter surprise, when the helicopters reached the place, it turned out no one was home. I flew a little farther hoping to spot the division in the water, but again, nothing. Where did that division go? I found the answer quickly from the opposite side, although found is a bit of an overstatement. I had left a jet on patrol and it got hit by enemy AA. That's how I realized the division had clearly moved to land nearby. My helicopters engaged the enemy and lost 18 health points. That was quite a bit of damage, which meant the division had 3 mobile anti-air units. So I had to bring in my second heli wing, suffer through a drawn-out battle, call in Belarusian air support, and lose a chopper. But eventually, we got the job done. Half a day had passed, and now my submarine was happily sinking Turkish ships that dared to interfere with my conquest of his land. Overall, the invasion was going smoothly, but I still needed to bring in more ground troops. So, what do you think I did? If you guessed I built an airfield, you're wrong. I waited for Meliodas to build one instead, because I had neither the resources nor the patience to stockpile them. Just kidding! There's a fine line between being strategic and overexploiting your allies. So, I went ahead and built a pontoon instead, so my troops wouldn't have to take the long way around through Izmir. It took my National Guard 19 hours just to capture Western Turkey. That was painfully slow. I'm truly grateful this is a 4x speed game. Otherwise, I might have rage quit from sheer boredom. We were already eyeing Germany as our next victim. He had a level 4 naval base, which meant cruisers, and possibly something with sonar. That's why I started researching level 2 elite subs to slip past any sonar checks. A day and a half later, my subs were making their way to German waters, hungry for some easy prey. Meanwhile, I was transporting my air forces closer to the front. By now, I had both naval and regular fighters, 2 kinds of helicopters, and another full wing parked on the frigates. Also, take a look at my glorious trade history. I got extremely lucky and bought massive stockpiles of resources at throwaway prices. Someone out there had unknowingly sponsored my entire operation. In total, I gained over 20,000 resources from this mystery benefactor. I approached Amsterdam to see what Germany was mobilizing at that level 4 naval base. And boom, it was a cruiser stack with a naval officer. The juiciest target for my subs. When I declared war and bit into his stack, I didn't destroy anything at first. But on the second strike, I sank a cruiser. Near Berlin, I repeated the same setup I used in Turkey. I even parked frigates right along my flight path, hoping Germany would wake up and reveal some air units. But he didn't. So my contribution to this war looked like mindless clicking, just sending helis to patrol until everything nearby was dead. I cleaned up Berlin with ease. Infantry, radar, and a few fighters that had been stationed there. Later, I got ambushed by an AA division that clearly had mobile anti-air, judging by the fact it damaged my helicopters. Luckily, I didn't lose much health. And out of pure spite, I lashed out at that cruiser stack again. As you can see, I couldn't even be bothered to move. I just hit the attack button and then stopped. After another poke, I left the 2 remaining ships to wait for their turn to be erased. Then I hit the naval officer again. His health was melting, but both ships were still alive. In the battle logs, you can see I was also chipping away at that AA division in Leipzig. Slowly but surely, I was grinding him down. But since helicopters are very low level, it was a slog. One of the logs also shows I destroyed an Ethiopian frigate near Italy. After that, I planned to just sit back and wait for someone else to conquer Ethiopia and make me free from that annoying permanent war status. Seemed like a brilliant and well thought out strategy to me. Within radar range, I could see Belarus attacking enemy signatures in northern Germany. I wish I could get all combat reports from him, but all I knew from the newspaper was that he killed a recon division. My Hellas attacked these anti-air minions again. They were getting pretty beat up, so I swapped them out for a fresher wing that had stayed pristine, because I didn't have time to kill it. You won't believe it. After the 5th attack, I finally sank the German naval officer. Sweet, sweet revenge for the damage his AA had done to my birds. 2 hours later, my fresh helicopter wing was hitting Leipzig, while the first wing was heading to Belarusian territory for repairs. As you can see, I immediately relocated my aircraft to Berlin's airfield for point-blank strikes. Heli warfare demands bold moves due to their slow speed. You just have to make sure the risk is worth it. During this raid, I wiped out a mobile SAM and an infantryman. Finally, some noticeable progress. Back at home, I had finally queued elite helicopter mobilization. Now I just needed to upgrade my elite frigates to level 2, and my damage dealers would be fully combat ready and mobile. My regular frigates were still only level 2, so yeah, I needed to step it up. The second attack wiped out another infantryman, and based on the report saying I'd hit an infantry battalion, I figured it was time to disembark and capture the city. Meanwhile, Belarusian hordes were marching deeper into Germany. Victory was in the bag. Wasting no time, I headed straight for my next target, the United Kingdom. Thanks to the wide view range of my submarines, I spotted some support units and aircraft parked in London. But the UK wasn't just sitting on aircraft. He also had level 3 naval bases. So, to deal with his navy, I initially sent in my wolf pack. However, I quickly changed my mind after reading the news. Apparently, the garrison on the oil rig had been destroyed by a German frigate. So I postponed the British invasion to handle something that, if left unattended, could turn into a problem. As you can see, I sailed my shallow water subs into deep waters, where they moved at a snail's pace, with laughably reduced health and damage output. But since the report said it was a frigate, I could afford to play chicken around it even with 1 HP. He couldn't touch me, while I was nothing short of omnipotent. 3 in-game days passed while I slept and worked. Fortunately, my mobilization kept going, thanks to the Security Council. I also accumulated a healthy stockpile of resources, mostly because I kept sniping electronics and supplies from the market at rock-bottom prices. Just remember, if you're sitting on more than 3,000 of any resource, you're not spending efficiently. As for my research, I upgraded the National Guard to level 2, started working on level 2 mobile SAMs, and pushed frigates to level 3. Why? Because the second most dangerous coalition on the map, Indonesia and Australia, had tons of strike fighters. And the best counter in my situation was SAMs, since they eat supplies instead of components, which were reserved for helis and Navy. As I approached my target, I declared war, not only to prevent the enemy from reacting to the alert in time, but also to flex for you, dear viewers, and prove what a tactical genius I am. Of course, none of that caution is necessary if you're hitting an AFK player on a public map, but let's keep that between us. Meliodas and I agreed to pretend we were fighting ultra-active players with full analytics departments. Anyway, I kicked things off by destroying 1 towed artillery and 1 combat recon vehicle. A creative build for this kind of map, to say the least. Then I used my favorite time-saving tactic and parked my frigates right on the Thames. Yes, I'm going to abuse this trick for the entire match. It lets me launch and strike almost instantly. In my next 2 air raids, I destroyed artillery, an infantryman, a fighter, and 2 CRVs. Shortly after, I wrapped up the slaughter by taking out a mobile radar, clearing the path for my Baltic tourists, and beginning the UK's glorious return to the European Union. I also sent my second heli wing to scout the other cities. When I saw 2 ground signatures, I was thrilled, thinking I'd found all his units still chilling at home. No need to chase them across the colonies, right? Wrong. I had only wiped out his newest mobilizations. On the bright side, this meant his homeland cities were unprotected, which meant I could steamroll them without resistance. And that's exactly what I was about to do in the northern part of the island. Clearing this area might take a bit longer though, because a mighty destroyer was lurking nearby. I sent in my subs, but instead of waiting, I just decided to attack it with helicopters. I had enough health to play recklessly, and if he woke up and tried to flee, I'd rather finish him off quickly. At the same time, I was already using a Norwegian airfield for my planes to scout enemy garrisons, and maybe spot some ships. Naturally, I wouldn't send my ground troops into a port city without first checking for naval defenses. Turned out, there weren't any, so I could seize the city without a hitch. Near Glasgow, I found a destroyer, and based on the situation, I guessed a recon division was guarding Belfast. They would be my next targets. So far, wiping out the British Army had been a walk in the park. With the Northern Front under control, I turned my attention to Spain, which had recently been taken over by the United Kingdom. My radar picked up a naval signature, so I sent in a gunship to investigate. Turned out, it was a Marine with barely any health left. I hit the attack button to avoid covering a bigger stack by my patrol zone and wiped him out in seconds. My frigates arrived shortly after and took shots at a destroyer. Moments later, my subs wrapped things up. I also sent helicopters to sweep Ireland, hunting for any stray prey, but it turned out to be a ghost island. So I just let my minions jog through and grab everything. Spain, however, posed a more serious challenge, since that's where the UK's main forces were actually stationed. I engaged the recon division we had spotted earlier using my helicopters, and lost 12 HP in the process. That's not nothing, which meant the group had mobile anti-air. Then my radar flagged a signature near the Turkish coast, so I dispatched a jet to check it out. Eventually, I found out it was Syria, evacuating his troops into the Caspian Sea. So, no danger for us. An oil rig off the French coast was empty, making it an easy grab. Meanwhile, I sent my elite subs along the French coastline to sniff out enemy ships. On land, Meliodas was massing his aircraft at an airfield, prepping for the next campaign. I pinpointed a hostile division in Madrid and launched my minions at it. In the meantime, I casually deleted an infantryman who was capturing an island and wandered into frigate range. Using my subs, I also sank a destroyer near the coast with ease. As you can see, predicting enemy ship placements isn't rocket science. Just look for possible cities under bombardment. That's where they like to hang out. I then used my battle-worn helicopters to investigate two mysterious naval signatures. Surprise, it was our old friends, rebel ships. Don't be fooled by the AI tag. These guys are dangerous. I'd seen countless players get shredded by these two ships, either flying over their anti-air zones or sending in clueless land troops. They may be AI, but they're a constant nuisance. Always lurking, always annoying. By day 27, I had upgraded my National Guard to level 3. Now they move faster and can gobble up land even more efficiently. I also started researching drone operators and level 4 frigates, both crucial for the upcoming war against Australia and Indonesia. I'm planning to use drone operators for baiting enemy aircraft, triggering their attack, and occasionally sabotaging airfields. If the enemy is super active, he can attack your drones on his own. We'll soon see how well this works in practice. In any case, that's another one of my tools for dealing with enemy air forces. As for the frigates, I'm leveling them up so I can unlock the upgrade of elite ones. That way, I'll be able to transport 3 full helicopter wings and 1 frigate stack. That's when it becomes a true pain-delivering strike group. Back at my villain lair, I was mobilizing National Guard to devour land, helicopters to wipe out enemy anti-air and artillery, which Australia and Indonesia have in abundance, and elite subs to counter their few naval groups. So far, the news reports have only shown destroyers and artillery divisions. To sum up, we're facing a competent enemy coalition, with active players, fast expansion, and smart resource usage. 2 days later, a British destroyer washed up on my shores, and I got cocky enough to send a frigate to go check it out. Of course, I had already seen the signature thanks to my radar network. And here comes my next tip. Place radars everywhere. If you know where the enemy will be hours in advance, you can plan your time around it. Let's be real. Most of you have jobs, classes, or sleep to attend to. You can't live in the game. That's why radars near choke points and naval highways are a must. They give you time to react without sacrificing your sanity. I personally recommend mobilizing dozens of them and placing them wherever an enemy might stage troops or sail past. The destroyer didn't last long. The final blow in his journey was delivered by a sabotage drone launched by my drone operators. I was now researching level 4 gunships, and finally began upgrading my elite frigates to level 2. Meanwhile, I relocated my capital to the component city to boost my resource output and pull it away from the vulnerable coastline. Sometimes it makes sense to move your capital to a city that produces the resource you need most, usually electronics. That's all for today. See you soon.